And a warm welcome back to Northampton College. I'm James, and we're doing our Scania 113 to 143 V8 conversion. So revisiting our oil pressure switch, we've previously spoken about this section, and when we looked at our gauges, we finalised our gauges and we looked at our voltage dividing circuit for coolant temperature and our oil pressure sensor circuit. So this is just rehashing that. So this was where I took the mechanical pipe out and I decided to fit an oil pressure sensor. Again, Scania being fantastic for interchangeable parts, I took this switch out of the failed six-cylinder, obviously checking there was no debris in the orifice. That would be bad luck, wouldn't it? And I fitted it in the Scania V8 engine. Perfect, one in a treat. And just to cover old ground, we've got our variable resistor there on the right-hand side. That represents our sensor that you can see there. And up at the gauge, we'd have a fixed resistor. And of course, the stronger that magnetic field at the gauge determines how high that needle goes between low and high oil pressure. So that was our oil pressure circuit. I was glad to get rid of the mechanical pipe. We've all got our own little wrinkles, but I really don't like them. I've seen them split behind dashboards and it creates such a mess. I imagine engine oil everywhere, all over the electrics, the gauges, and things like heater components and all that, which you just don't want. So I was really pleased to get rid of that. So on the strip down, we noticed that the exhaust manifold from the turbo base perspective was cracked. And that is remarkable because the row train, it pulled so well, you wouldn't know that there was any loss in exhaust pressure. Of course, exhaust pressure is critical for turbo boost. You start to lose pressure, and then, of course, the output of that is that you lose turbo boost. So we had this welded up while the exhaust manifold was off. Guy around the corner did it for us. Great guy, very helpful, and he does like a six-pack on a Friday afternoon. So good time to go and see him is Friday afternoon, take a six-pack, and he just drops everything and gets the welder out. So yeah, he's a good guy. Scania update, guys. So new mud guards. Went and picked those up today in new hangers and put those on new. The centre caps look really nice, so when the wheel was polished, there look very nice. Yeah, coming together. Tomorrow I want both rear mud guards on, and then I can touch up the chassis where, you know, I've been moving metal on metal and stuff like that. So scored the paint, and then these would be painted, the uprights. Gonna order the exhaust tubing this coming week. My mate John, who helps me, old fella, his son's a fabricator and a stainless steel welder, so he's gonna weld all the exhaust, and these are made for the job because we've got captured nuts on the backs of these plates, so just be nice, big, straight through pipes. And getting closer to getting on the road. So if I was doing this conversion in England, it would have been much easier because there were so many 4x2, so two-wheel drive, four-wheeler, if you like, Scania V8s. Lots. I'd say there's a split between 4x2s and 6x2s. But in Australia, going right back to the first episode, you can't find 4x2 V8s. This is why I'm doing this conversion. So because of that, if you think I'm moving this engine to a new position and I'm using the existing gearbox, so I'm changing the position of the gearbox, so therefore I now need a longer tail shaft or propeller shaft, as we say in England. Obviously, with no surplus or a scrapyard, wrecking yard, 4x2 Scanias about, I had to get this propeller shaft remade. Now the guys down at Gibbs done a great job, and only had it for maybe 3 or 4 days, double skinned, substantial welding, new UJs. So I was really pleased with the end product. And it's really critical that you get this measurement right, and also where your gearbox mounting heights are, because it's going to affect your drive shaft angles. And then you're going to be left with vibrations later on. So this turned out really well as well. Okay, so on the gearbox, it's critical to get the height of the gearbox at the exact same point that matches the back axle. And what I mean by that, you do a theoretical line coming out the center of the gearbox and a theoretical line coming out of the back axle. Okay, that can be a string line. So 2 string lines. The gap between these 2 theoretical points, so C and D have to be the same, so the same height. And when they're the same height, then you can start to get your tail shaft lined up correctly. So what we needed was an inclinometer. Now luckily with your iPhone, you've all got one. So we use this inclinometer and got a angle measurement, okay, and that angle measurement correlates to angle A, which matches angle B. Now if these 2 angles are different, the drive shaft will whip, or the tail shaft will whip, and when it whips you get a vibration. It becomes a frequency. This has got a small angle, this one would have a big angle, for example, so now it's whipping. It's doing this whipping motion. It's like me spinning a piece of rope, holding it in my fist, spinning it. I've got a small angle in my fist and the end of the rope's a large angle and it whips. That creates a vibration going down the road. So that's how we perfected the Scania. All comes down to fundamentals again. So we've got our 143 Scania V8 road train that's pulled 3 trailers from Toowoomba to Darwin. It's been in the harshest conditions in the world potentially. So that flywheel that you can see there on the left has seen some punishment. Took it away and refaced it, brought it back, and the surface is like new. There's no point in putting a new clutch on if you're not going to resurface the flywheel, or at least inspect it, because you're actually losing the efficiency of the clutch. It will, potentially only buy in 50% or less of that surface area. So you're encouraging that new clutch to slip if you don't have the flywheel resurfaced. You can see all the white dots there on the paint. Those white dots is because I torqued those bolts up with a torque wrench, and Scania specifications say that you have to add 90 degrees onto your final torque. Okay, so here's the importance of having your flywheel refaced. So this part here is your flywheel. Okay, so if you don't have it refaced, you reduce its friction power, and the whole thing that a clutch requires is friction. So if you look at the flywheel when it's been refaced, it's lovely and straight. The red lines there are the clutch friction material, and that's equivalent of me putting this disc completely flat onto this disc and trying to turn it. It's difficult because there's a really strong coefficient of friction, whereas if I compare that to a distorted flywheel, and whilst it's exaggerated, you can see the contact area from the flywheel to the clutch lining is heavily reduced. Now that's equivalent of me putting my fingers as contact material onto this disc, and it doesn't matter how much I press, I can still turn it. So that's a reality. You're going to have a slipping clutch, so always reface the flywheel. Okay guys, moment of truth. I've just put a temporary battery stay across the chassis there. Big moment this is for James. Okay, battery isolator. Good. Okay, battery ground on the chassis. Here we go guys. Oh yes, moment now guys. Oh yes. Come on you. So here we are again, the end of another episode. Hope you liked the video guys, and if you did, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Remember guys, Team 143, let's do this.